Hey everybody, welcome to my new channel. My name is Toby Bittenbender and this is the Tales from the Treadmill. It's about my journey so far, being in rock bands my entire life, my past addiction issues, the road to recovery, and now in my sobriety. I'm almost 3 years in and I couldn't be happier. And I thought I'd start today's video off with some, maybe some words of encouragement. I know today is going to be a fantastic day. I just got off of a walk with my dog Kingsley down to the lake. I had my talk with the universe and talked about how thankful I am for my sobriety and my wife, my daughter, and everything, and our friends and family and all of our health. And I have that talk every single day. I think it's very important to be thankful for where you are in life, no matter what's happening. It's only going to get better. But as we all know, life can be a roller coaster. And one thing I want to put out there is that what I've discovered in my sobriety is that no matter, we're all going to go through those lows and those highs, no matter what. That's just how life is. It's how you respond to it and how you act, in response to it. So my whole thing is now I've found in sobriety is that no matter what happens, I know today's going to be a fantastic day, even if something terrible happens, because I know that I have the capacity to handle it in a much better way than I used to. The bad things don't seem as bad. The good things are so amazing. And, I just wanted to throw that out there for anybody that might be struggling right now, because that's what this channel is all about. I'm here to hopefully help some people who might be having these same issues. So I left off yesterday talking about my near-death experience that I had because I mixed substances together. Now, that wasn't the last time that I did that. You would think that would be the last time that I would make some stupid mistake like that, but it really wasn't. Because when you're an addict and you don't even realize you're an addict, because again, I'm just out there being a rock star in a band, trying to be a rock star in a band, just partying it up. To me, it was a big party. I never wanted it to end. And I don't want to talk much on others' experience with any of this stuff. I can only speak for myself. But being in a band here with other people, two of the guys in the band didn't really do much of stuff. Maybe drank and stuff like that, but it wasn't like me and the singer, Joe. And this is it's put out there. It's not like this is any kind of a secret, but I'm not going to talk much about his experience because, it's not mine. But I will say that we were like the Toxic Twins back in those days. So, I wanted to start with, we're moving into the late 90s here. We had just gotten a new bass player, Corey, and we had new life in the band, and I want to stress again at this time, I'm drinking. The drinking never stopped once I started again. It just continued on for till I quit a few years, almost 3 years ago. So that was a constant throughout all of this that was going on. But I will say we put out a record called In My Head. We started getting a lot of attention because of that recording. We started playing bigger shows. We were playing with the big rock stars of the days. I mean, we did shows with Creed and Our Lady Peace and huge bands that were doing huge at the time. And so we were on our way up. And what happens when you're on your way up and you start getting some radio play and you start getting things happening, all of the other, all the bad stuff, the drugs, the alcohol, it grows with you. It gets bigger and bigger. It's everywhere. And if you are into that kind of a thing, then it's real easy, especially when you're in a band that's growing in popularity, to partake in that, because most of the time it's free. People are just handing you stuff. You don't have to pay anything for it. I mean, don't get me wrong, we bought that drugs as well along the way, and also alcohol, but there's a lot of free stuff. And if you have been in a band and have experienced, what I'm talking about. It's just everywhere. I mean, it's just part of what it was, back then. So anyway, I want to get into the next substance that came along. In the late 90s, Ecstasy became a really popular thing. And in fact, it was actually legal in the beginning. People were going to clubs and taking these big wafer tabs of Ecstasy and, and just tripping balls all night. That's what they called it. Tripping balls, anyway. So it was, but once that kind of made its appearance in my life, I started doing that constantly, and there's different. It was obviously became an illegal narcotic, But I mean, I pushed the parameters with that drug because, you know, there's a reason they call it ecstasy. I mean, it releases the dopamine in your brain. It floods it, and so and that's what makes you happy. The serotonin, I should say, serotonin. It releases it, and it's like a flood in your head, and it's that's what makes you feel feelings of euphoria and happiness, and it explodes, and that's why people like to do it. People still do that. It's still out there, and abuse it, and it's real easy to abuse because it feels so good. But the problem with it is that it also created lots of situations where people got depressed and bad things happened because of that drug. Because once you come down off of it, you've released all of those feelings, all of that happiness is gone, and you come down and you're just it's like the lowest feeling of the low. So I did that for probably a couple years, I want to say, and yeah. I don't like to think about the what that might have had an effect on my brain. I've heard stories it creates holes and all that kind of stuff. So another big part of the reason why I'm on this treadmill every day and that I stopped doing everything was to try and combat all of the bad things that I did to myself back then. So we're out there on the road. I mean, I played shows, having taken that, and I will tell one story about it real quick. Trying to make these videos not as long, guys, but sometimes these stories, I realize they're pretty in-depth, and I've got so many things pop up in my head when I'm recounting all of these things. And so eventually I'll probably go into more depth about particular instances that happen. Maybe that'll be part of my book, or I'm starting a podcast with a couple of buddies of mine. We're probably going to just no holds barred talk about everything, music industry, golf, all that kind of good stuff. But anyway, the one big story that I remember about that particular drug was that, at that time we were growing in pretty big. We had gotten pretty big, and we had label interest, and we had management that was flying into town to come and see us play. Fred Durst flew us to LA to go, showcase at the Viper Room for Jimmy Iovine, and that kind of stuff was happening with us at the time. From 2000 to 2003, things were just exploding, right? And everything that's coming along with it, I'm just doing everything, it seemed like, now that I look back on it. So anyway, what had happened was we had gone out to Vinnie Paul's, the clubhouse, and we were hanging out there. Vinny and Dime were there. I remember speaking to them that night. Both of them just went up to them and said, hey, and they started coming to our shows, which just freaking blew my mind. I mean, talk about, just looking out in the audience and seeing them and being like, oh, I mean, those are heroes, you know what I'm saying? But they started coming to all of our shows. But we were at the clubhouse that night, and someone had gotten a bunch of tabs of Ecstasy. And so we started doing that. Well, we went back and we partied all freaking night. We had a show the next night. We partied all night into the next day, never slept, hardly ate, probably didn't eat, I would imagine. I mean, you're not really hungry, but definitely drank along with doing that. So we're mixing drugs, because alcohol is a drug, people. We're mixing all of that together and just keeping going, and it just seemed like it was an endless supply for some reason. So we kept going all day. We had to go down to Deep Ellum to get ready for our show at the Curtain Club that night, because we had management coming in to see us who might want to sign us to their management firm on that road to finding a label. So we go downtown, we load our gear, mind you, out of my mind, load our gear in there, get ready, backline it, because it was our show that night. We backline everything. We go to Deep Sushi in Deep Ellum, place that we used to go to all the time when the record execs would want to take us out. We would always go there. We loved that place. So we went there, but I was sitting next to our lawyer. I'm just out of my mind, and the guy came up and said, hey, do you want, would you like, what would you like to eat? And I was like, beer. I thought it was funny, but the lawyer's like, hey, what are you doing? Because we're with these management people. I just was out of my mind. It was so stupid, I take a lot of responsibility for my actions back then, because, had I been sober, or at least even if I hadn't just been so crazy, who knows, maybe things would have gone a different way. But anyhow, so I ended up getting up and leaving because I wasn't hungry. I'd taken, I'm just going to say this, I took 13 tabs from the time we started to the time we got to Deep Ellum through that period. Now that's ridiculous. I mean, what am I trying to do? What is that? That's, looking back on it, it just seems like such a nightmare, and it makes me sick kind of to my stomach. But anyhow, well, I thought to myself, well, I need to go change my strings on my guitar, need to put a fresh set on, stretch them out, make sure that they're ready for the show. So I go back there. I'm in the middle of the process of changing the strings on my guitar, and about halfway through, my hands go entirely numb, and I can't feel them anymore. I mean, it was as if I didn't have hands. I was looking at my hands. I couldn't move my hands. I was just looking at the hand. I couldn't do this. I couldn't do this. If you're a guitar player, that's your worst freaking nightmare in the world. I'm looking at my hands, not being able, and I'm just like, oh my God, because the show is coming. It's a couple hours away. This was probably 8 o'clock in the evening by the time, or maybe 7:30. But it's a few hours. I mean, it's within the window, and I'm looking at my hands, and they're not moving. And I'm the guitar player of the band. And I'm sitting here like, I'm panicking. I am panicking, and I'm out of my mind too. And brought myself there, right? These are my decisions that brought me there. So I got on my hands and knees, and I prayed to God. I prayed to God, please God, let me get through this show. I will stop doing this. I will stop doing this, because this is, ridiculous. And like, my hands stayed that way for a while. I was thinking I might have to go to the hospital. I hadn't told anybody or anything. I don't even think I ever did tell anybody, because out of nowhere, they suddenly started working again. And we played that show. And it's not funny actually. Going back, I remember there was a video of the show. And I was like thinking, do I want to watch this? I don't even know. And somehow miraculously, the show sounded fantastic. The band played well. That's another thing, is that's that invincibility that you feel. I think because it was so ingrained, because we had been touring for years and years and years, and we had if we weren't playing shows, we were practicing, we were writing, we were living that life. So I think it was just a matter of, thank God my hands worked. Thank you, God, for that. Thank God my hands worked, because I was able to get through the show. But you would think that might be something that finally made you decide, okay, I should probably get some help or something, or stop. And I want to say that I probably still continued doing that afterwards. I'm a fallible person, right? Make mistakes. But it slowed way down, and as the band grew, it was just a big party, man. That's what I thought. And I was the person that was also, I may have been the worst, because 3 o'clock, 4, 5, 6, and I'm like, no, we're not saving this stuff. We're finishing it. My big saying was, drugs are for doing. They're not for saving. I used to say that all the time, and it's just so, I can't believe that's the person that I was back then. But you know what? It all got me to where, thank God that I'm alive, first of all. I feel very lucky to be alive. I feel lucky to be here on this treadmill talking to you guys about this today. This is going to help me, I think, just as much, maybe even more. Hopefully it's going to help a lot of people out there. I've already had some really great messages from people, and I wanted everybody to know that I did get several requests to talk about the 18-wheeler accident that I was involved in. So I'm probably going to do pretty soon just a video on that, because it's a pretty intense story. So I'm probably going to go into that. I really appreciate you guys' comments and suggestions and encouragement. I mean, it's been amazing seeing all of the comments of people, interacting. I love that. And so I love to hear your stories. And no matter where you're at and everything. And again, I'm not the kind of person to sit here and say everybody should be sober. If you don't have a problem, if you have a couple drinks here and there and it's no big deal, great. Not going to bother me at all. But if you are in the throes of addiction and you're struggling, feel free to reach out to me. Send me a message, comment here, or you can find my Facebook page is easy. I'd love to hear from you, and maybe I could give you some words of encouragement again. So listen, guys, thanks again for being here. I want to thank all of my new subscribers. And if you're new here, please click like and subscribe to my channel. And I appreciate you all being here on the road to recovery with me. All right, you guys have a great day.